You're watching Newsline, an RMI TV production. Australia may be the land of opportunity, but not for everyone. Bree Roberts looks at conditions for migrant outworkers, sewing clothes in suburban homes and garages in Melbourne.
Australian-made, environmentally friendly and no sweatshop labour. 9-year-old Bindi Irwin is king of the kids after launching her own fashion label.
Clothing does have a conscience. I mean, the sayings on it are amazing. Tigers should have hugs, not be rugs.
Thumbs up from mums and dads.
Yeah, I look for Australian made.
But behind the marketing hype and fanfare, the clothes may not live up to their ethical claims. Manufacturer Three Monsters produced the Bindi wear range using outworker labour. 80% of all clothes made in Australia are sewn by outworkers, mostly migrants with poor English working long hours from home for a fraction of award wages. The Textiles Union has likened outworker conditions to suburban sweatshops and says many are afraid to speak out.
They're really worried that if they expose the exploitation, if they publicly say, well, I'm making this brand that you might walk into a shop and pay $300 for a dress and I got paid $10 for it, that they'll lose their work.
Yeah, we just hire, we keep ourselves. We usually do like more than 12 hours a day. If I said unfair to the supplier, I can't get a job. They get to somebody else. We can't talk with them. Just keep doing it. Yeah.
The high price of fashion is not just to consumers, and outworkers are the human cost. Working up to 18 hours a day for as little as $4 an hour, many of them can't afford basic living expenses, let alone the recommended retail price for their handiwork.
The industry itself doesn't want to take responsibility for the problem, and so they would much rather the image of the glossy catwalk and the glamorous model as the image that actually portrays the industry. There's a deliberate washing of their hands.
Others disagree.
And the question has to come back to consumers. Are consumers prepared to pay increased prices for their product? And the answer to that is clearly no.
For some manufacturers, efforts to improve conditions for outworkers with a voluntary code of practice have resulted in a 30% hike in production costs.
It ain't easy. Our margins are small.
A long road for the industry, but the game is over for some. A new job and a new start for Luong.
Yeah, I start work 8 o'clock in the morning and finish at 4. Yeah, it's very fantastic.
Bree Roberts, Newsline.
Now for a look at Today in Finance, here's Carme Reich.
Thanks, Jennifer. While a fall in the international price of oil is good news for motorists, for some investors it's meant to fall in the value of shares. Shares in oil and other energy companies went down, but brokers say oil's fall will be positive for the overall market, which has been worried about inflation, weaker consumer spending and company profits after last week's record prices. Around the region, the Tokyo market settled back in early trade, following the Australian market down. Hong Kong's Hang Seng opened in positive territory today. After the Memorial Day long weekend, there was good news for US investors, with Wall Street rebounding from the biggest weekly tumble since February. The drop in oil prices saw a rally in companies that make their money producing or selling consumer goods. In Europe, stocks fell for a third day as the fall in oil and metals prices sent commodity producers lower. The German market went against the trend, rising by less than 1%. The price of West Texas crude fell more than $3 a barrel as profit takers moved into the spot market. The gold price has also taken a tumble, falling by more than $20 an ounce. On foreign currency markets, the Australian dollar has strengthened against the US greenback, but it is up against other major trading currencies. And that's the Newsline Finance Report. Jennifer.
Thanks, Carme. As the Salvation Army's Red Shield appeal continues this week, we will soon know exactly how many people are sleeping rough on Melbourne's streets. Melbourne's homeless will be counted for the first time on June 2nd. As part of its homeless framework, the council will count people sleeping on the street to accurately identify just how many people are homeless within the City of Melbourne. Volunteers will trawl the city at 5 in the morning, searching for people sleeping or who identify themselves as homeless. Now for a look at today's sports news, here's Nat Edwards.
Thanks, Jennifer. Disgraced swimmer Nick Darcy will not swim in Beijing after he lost his appeal to be reinstated to the Australian Olympic team. The Court of Arbitration for Sport handed down its ruling this afternoon, standing by the Australian Olympic Committee's decision to drop him from the team. Darcy has been charged with assault causing grievous bodily harm after attacking former swimmer Simon Cowley. Torrential rain has thrown the French Open into disarray with only 3 hours of play on day 3 of the Grand Slam. Aussie Casey Delacroix's first round match against Frenchwoman Marion Bartoli was delayed for over 9 hours. Play was suspended with Delacroix trailing 6-5. Nearly half of the first round matches are yet to be played, including Leighton Hewitt's match against Nicholas Mahut. New South Wales Waratah Lottie Takiri has labelled top-of-the-table team the Crusaders breakable ahead of Saturday's Super 14's final in Christchurch. Takiri says the Crusaders are not invincible despite vying for their 7th Super 14's title. The Socceroos World Cup qualifier against Iraq on Sunday is still in doubt despite the Iraqi team's confidence they will play. FIFA has banned Iraq from international soccer for a year after the Iraqi government dissolved its football association. The Baghdad government has until tomorrow night to reverse the decision by reinstating the Iraq Football Association. Prime Minister Kevin Rudd has singled out sports clubs in his government's battle against binge drinking. Michael O'Donnell takes a closer look at the drinking culture within the sporting community.
Most Australians enjoy a drink, whether it be a beer with friends or a glass of wine after work. But there are growing concerns about excessive drinking amongst young people.
To understand where young people learn their drinking habits, we need to examine the drinking culture embedded in Australian society.
Professor Robin Room, Head of Research at the Turning Point Alcohol and Drug Centre, says there has always been issues with alcohol.
Kids are growing into a culture in which heavy drinking, when they get out of school or at the end of school, is something that's really entrenched in the culture.
David Murray from the Youth Substance Abuse Service says over the last 5 years, the drinking culture among young people has changed.
We're seeing a group of young people who are getting into trouble with their drinking earlier than perhaps they did before.
Prime Minister Kevin Rudd's strategy to fight youth binge drinking includes a $20 million ad campaign as well as $14 million to help sports clubs create responsible drinking codes of conduct. Sporting clubs face losing government funding if they do not make an attempt to curb excessive drinking among their members. Margaret Kearney from Clubs Victoria says Mr Rudd is singling out sporting clubs unfairly.
I think that the concentration so far has just been to demonise the clubs. I think that there's probably a bigger problem with binge drinking and unhealthy behaviour amongst people who aren't involved in sporting clubs than those who are involved in sporting clubs.
Many clubs rely on alcohol as a vital source of income to provide facilities and equipment for players. Peter Armstrong, coach of the Box Hill North Football Club, says as grassroots sporting clubs become more professionally run, they have to find other sources of income.
We had to change how we were running our club because we weren't going to make any money through non-sale of alcohol. So we had to realise sponsorship was the way to go.
Despite claims the drinking culture among sporting clubs is out of control, more players are taking better care of their bodies and avoiding alcohol.
The percentage of my footballers in my senior team that would have a beer after the game, where it would have been 99%, nowadays it would be more like 20%.
Professor Room says even in this day and age, there's nothing wrong with having a few beers with your mates.
Very few people would object for people having a couple of drinks with their friends. The problem is, of course, when it goes on and becomes many more drinks.
Michael O'Donnell, Newsline.
And that's what's happening in the wide world of sports. Jennifer.
Look at how the weather's shaping up for the rest of the week.